If you went on the pill and felt like someone turned the volume down on your entire personality, there's a biological reason for that. And it hits neurodivergent women harder than almost anyone realizes. Join me today. Before we get into today's topic and have a quick coffee with me, Dr. Sarah, a quick important note. I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything I share on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personalized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please always work with a qualified healthcare provider who knows your full medical history before making any changes or plans, okay? If you're in crisis or need immediate support, please reach out to the medical provider or crisis line right away. So I'm so happy that you're here today. Have some coffee with me, Dr. Sarah, owner and founder of Lush Lifestyle. And today I want to talk about something that almost never comes up when a woman is handed a birth control prescription. And in my opinion, it happens without any thought, right? Just, oh, but here's some birth control. And then we create other problems. I wish someone had explained this to me, and something that I hear constantly from my patients. The pill can change who you are, and a lot of times it does. And nobody told them that was possible, right? And here's why. And they just hand it out like it's something else. Well, here we go. Go on, the pill. First, let's talk about what estrogen actually does in a healthy cycle. So, because you need this foundation to understand what happens when synthetic hormones replace it, right? Remember, birth control is not estradiol, it is synthetic. So estrogen is not just a reproductive hormone. It functions, it has 400 functions in the female body. It's a brain hormone, right? It directly influences dopamine, the neurotransmitter that works in our prefrontal cortex and drives motivation, focus, reward, and executive functioning. So when estrogen is high, in the follicular phase, what we call the follicular lift, right? Around right before ovulation, dopamine availability increases. This is why a lot of women that suffer from PMDD, or just women in general, will say right after their period, right before ovulation is the best time ever. It's estrogen is peaking, testosterone is peaking, everything is clearer, you feel great. We call that the follicular lift, right? Motivation is high, you're sharper, you're more social, you have a lot of libido, right? Well, when estrogen drops in the luteal phase before your period, dopamine availability drops with it. Estrogen is a relation to dopamine. So this is why the week before your period, and those women that suffer from PMDD understand this significantly, feels harder, your brain is more foggy, you have less motivation. So for women who are neurodivergent, or those that assigned female at birth, this cycle can be amplified. Why? Because we already have a dopamine issue, right? We already have a harder time activating that dopamine. So when estrogen drops and takes dopamine with it, that impact is not subtle. All right, that can feel things like, oh, your medications that you are on, your ADHD medications, they're not working as well, right? Think about that. If you are on stimulant medication or mood stabilizers, are they working differently throughout your cycle? Okay. Maybe you feel like that, right? Maybe you're like, oh my gosh, my brain is offline. Things are not going well. I feel like two different, completely different people. That's not character flaws, ladies. It's chemistry. Okay. It's chemistry. So now let's insert what synthetic hormones do to the system. So most combined hormonal contraceptions, the pill, the patch, the ring, work by suppressing your natural hormonal cycle, right? And we're talking in generalities. They replace your fluctuating estrogen and progesterone with synthetic versions delivered but at a steady, controlled state. So that actually doesn't sound so bad, right? You're like, oh, hormones at a steady, controlled state. But here's what that means neurologically. When your natural cycle is suppressed, you lose the estrogen peaks that were supporting your dopamine. You lose the variability, which, yes, meant some harder days, but also meant some genuinely good days when your brain was actually working well. Instead, you get a flat hormonal line, steady synthetic hormones that do not interact with dopamine receptors the way that natural estrogen does. So for many neurotypical women, this is tolerable, and for some of them, it isn't tolerable, right? But they can notice mood changes, libido shifts, maybe some emotional blunting, right? For neurodivergent women and those that identify as female at birth, whose baseline dopamine is already lower, right? We already have a dopamine issue, ladies. right? These fluctuations can generally be destabilizing. The flat hormonal line doesn't feel stable. It feels like someone turned the volume down on everything, right? On motivation, on focus, on personality, on joy. I hear this over and over again. And because this happens gradually over weeks or months, many don't connect it to the pill. And you also probably, when you were started on the pill, weren't told that this could potentially happen. What do they think? Oh, I'm developing depression. They think they're burning out. They think something is wrong with them, not with their prescription. And I'm not saying birth control isn't right for some people, but it needs more of a conversation, right? We should understand what we're doing to our system and our body so then we can pay attention and say, hey, is this working for me? Now let's add on synthetic progestins. I want to go one level deeper here because there is something providers rarely explain. Not all synthetic hormones are created equal. So the progestin component of most hormonal contraceptions, the synthetic progesterone, varies significantly between formulations. So some progestins have androgenic effects. They lower testosterone, right? And testosterone, even in small amounts in women, guess where it works? The prefrontal cortex, right? Where all of our executive functioning is, where our libido is, where our energy is. And for neurodivergent women and those that identify as female at birth, we're already having an issue with these neurochemicals, right? So reducing testosterone, which is feeding that prefrontal cortex for us through a synthetic progestin, right, is pushing that system past the threshold. That's why some women feel worse on certain pills than others. It's not random, it's chemistry. And providers who understand neurodivergent hormonal sensitivity can help you navigate it. Again, I'm not saying that that's not what you need or potentially you could, but we need more thoughtful conversation. We need to understand, okay, if I use this progestin and it has anti-androgenic effects, that may not be the one to use for you, right? Maybe we look at a different one. Maybe we don't do any. Maybe we do something else. Okay. Here's the part I want to be honest about. Most providers or physicians who are prescribing hormonal contraceptive are not thinking about how the synthetic progestins affect dopamine in an ADHD brain. They're just not, right? They're not trained to connect the dots. The research is on this is recently, relatively recent, and still not really widely understood in mainstream medicine. This is not negligence in most cases, it's a knowledge gap, right? People are not trying to harm you, they just don't understand. And that means that millions of neurodivergent women have been prescribed hormonal contraception without ever being told that their brain chemistry might make them more sensitive to the effects. You deserve that information, right? Before you decide, not after years of wondering why you don't feel like yourself anymore. Right? Not to mention that suppressing hormones has other side effects in the body that are not even including the brain, right? On bone health and sarcopenia and things like that. Again, we just need to be having the conversation, right? So, what do you do with this information? Thanks, Dr. Sarah. What do I do with it? First, if you're currently on a hormonal contraception and you feel like a different person, take that seriously. Track your mood, track your focus, track your motivation, track your libido for a few months. See if there's a pattern that data is worth having. Second, if you're considering hormonal contraception, ask your provider or physician specifically about the progestin type and androgenic activity. Ask how this might interact with your ADHD or your neurodivergent profile. If they don't know, that's important information about whether they're the right provider for you, right? If they don't know, there's nothing against them, but you need to find someone who does know. Um, it's just like in our neurodivergent brains, it's just kind of like I think of this as a specialty surgery, right? If you had this rare skin tumor, would you go to a general surgeon or would you find the person and the surgeon that knows about your rare skin tumor? Right? Neurodivergence isn't rare, but a lot of people don't, not a lot of providers and physicians don't understand the complexity. So why would you go to someone who is a generalist versus the specialist, right? That's how I think of it. Number three is like know that there are options. There's non-hormonal options, right? Lower dose hormonal options, different formulas. The decision is yours to make. But the thing is you should be fully informed. I am not anti-birth control, right? This is pro-informed consent. And informed consent requires information that most neurodivergent women are currently not given. Okay. I want you to ask the questions. I want you to understand your body. And I want you to find the people that are going to be able to answer the questions and navigate this with you who understand a neurodivergent brain. Okay? Because I am one, right? So I do understand. If this video gave you language for something you've been living with, share it with someone who needs it, right? We've got to share the news. We've got to share the news. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next week. And hey, guess what? If you want to go into a deeper dive, go to my Substack, right? I publish 2 articles a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. And we talk all neuro things neurodivergent there. Okay. Link is in the bio. Go get it. Okay. You deserve the information and you deserve the education. Okay. And don't settle for anything less. Until next time, stay well.